Welcome back. Here we are again at the Nobody Asked This podcast. Welcome to episode number, I'm not sure. I'm sitting here on our regular Wednesday night. I've been enjoying the Wednesday nights. I used to do either a Wednesday morning record. This is so fascinating for everyone to hear, I'm sure. I used to do either like a Wednesday morning recording, and that was usually in my car before work. And I just don't know I think for a while that it was, because it was different and new, it was like maybe bringing out a different side of things. Usually I had just sat in about an hour and a half or 2 hours of traffic before recording those episodes. And I don't know, I think traffic, it gives you time to marinate, it gives you time to sit, it gives you time to think, it gives you time to get angry, it gives you time to completely zone out to the point where you don't actually remember where you are, which is super conducive for driving. Does that ever happen to anyone? Like, there are times every once in a while, this doesn't happen too often, but I think once you start driving the same route day in and day out, like, it's hard for your brain to be like stimulated. But obviously we have to be safe driving. I'm promoting safe driving, 10 and 2, stay alert. But like every once in a while, there'll be like a couple seconds where I'm like, oh, I don't actually recall what just happened. So I hope that isn't a bad sign. I hope that doesn't mean, we missed something that we shouldn't have. And so far, everything's been good. And again, we're promoting safe driving. I'm just saying it like it is. Like every reality star from 2009 to 2000 now, everyone's always like, what makes me different is I tell it like it is. And it's like, well, all of you are liars because we see footage. We see these shows. And none of you are telling like it is. And then the one of you that is like being kind of mean about it, to be honest. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. I hope everyone has had a great week. It's been a decent week. I feel settled into fall. I've had some pumpkin pie. I have what I believe will become I don't know if I've done an episode on this because I've had a yearly reminder that fruitcake is top 5 favorite desserts of mine. And honestly, top 3 favorite breakfasts. Every year for Christmas, and by every year I mean the past 2, maybe 3 years, for breakfast on Christmas, or like a breakfast, there's like 12 meals on Christmas, but like usually the first thing I have that's not like a grab and go, like a sit down meal, so to speak, I have a Nanaimo bar and I have a piece of fruitcake. Justice for fruitcake. I don't know why it gets such a negative connotation. I actually do know why. So I'm not only here providing you with an argument, I have a defense of my own argument. I'm like both sides of the jury. I'm the judge and jury. And I'm here to tell you that fruitcake is delicious. The reason people do not like fruitcake is because when you hear the word fruitcake, you associate it with the fruitcake that tastes like it's been soaked in alcohol for 15 months. Because that one has. I am not talking about that fruitcake. I'm not talking about the one everyone had, like the aunt that made fruitcake and we all had to like pretend to like it when we're 7. And like, I don't think I'm even allowed to be eating this right now. For some reason, when alcohol is put in things, especially desserts, people forget that it's alcohol. And I get like cooking with alcohol, like that for the most part, like will burn off. Now, I'm not a chef, so I don't know. But I'm assuming like if you put like some wine, baste a turkey, with some wine, like that's going to burn off in the oven. No, if you put some wine in a sauce, like you're good, you're fine. You're not actually like ingesting alcohol. If you soak a brick cake, which I love, don't misunderstand me. I love what it starts out as. Once it's been dipped in alcohol, even a smidge, I was going to say throw it out, but that's wasteful, especially with food prices so high. But you can send it to people who like it. That is no longer for me. But everyone had that relative that would bring it, and you'd all have to like eat around it, or like maybe pick out the like the glazed cherries, like the fruit part of the cake, and then maybe like just eat the icing. But the actual fruitcake as it is, if you took out all the alcohol, a sober fruitcake is delicious. And if you are in disagreement, here's the thing. We all have different taste buds. I've openly talked about how I haven't had taste buds since I've had COVID. So maybe this is an effect of that. I actually don't know. And if you really piece it together, if you want to go detective on my own words, which I will do because, again, judge and jury here, I said I've had it for breakfast the last 2 or 3 years, which coincide with my 2022 COVID diagnosis. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I've had I ate the full brick of fruitcake. For anyone that doesn't know, I don't know how ubiquitous fruitcake is. Now, luckily, I don't have listeners, so I really don't have to explain, but I'm going to. Just in case someone's listening to this in 3 or 4 more Christmases when I've had 3 or 4 more fruitcake Nanaimo bar breakfast. And we'll get into a Nanaimo bar because I know that isn't as popular as it A should be and B deserves to be, which I think is the same, A and B. So it was just A. But fruitcake I know it's very popular in, I want to say England, or like originated there. I'm actually not quite sure. And I know different countries have different like versions of fruitcake or like a spiced cake that is eaten at different holidays. This one in particular is, you can get light fruitcake or dark fruitcake. I haven't fully understood the difference. I will be asking ChatGPT later once I figure out how to use it. From my understanding, dark has more of like a molassesy vibe, and light has more of like a corn syrup vibe. Now, whether it's high fructose corn syrup or low fructose corn syrup, I'm not sure. Again, while we're using terms I don't know, I'm not 100% sure what any of that means. But I know that it's in a lighter fruitcake, whereas a darker fruitcake, not so much. And then you can get marzipan frosted fruitcakes, light fruitcakes. Normally, I would say it's like 70-30, 70% chance they will have marzipan. I would say dark fruitcake, if you're just going to a grocery store, like 60-40, 60 they won't have the marzipan, but you can find both. And basically it's just a cake. It's like a thick, dense cake, usually sold in either like a round one, like the pan with the hole in the middle, or just like a square. Or no, what's the shape that's like a square but it's not? The rectangle. I purchased a rectangle one. I did purchase a Costco one. I talked about how, like, in August, I found fruitcake at Costco, and then I went the next week and they didn't have it, so I was assuming that they made a mix-up. I believe and it's back now. I believe the Costco one is a darker. They don't say light or dark. I believe it is, like, bordering on the, like, I think there is, like, a molasses element, so it would maybe be considered a dark fruitcake. I don't know the exact scientific point where it becomes a dark fruitcake, and like, does it start light? I don't know. That I don't know. I have to look into it. Listen, I can't know everything. I know most things, okay? It has to be good enough. That's what I got, you know? But all of that to say, if you have not tried fruitcake since your aunt brought it to Christmas in 2007, or whenever you were 7, please try it again, and just please make sure you're not having the gross one that's dipped in alcohol. Now, you can usually tell if you are in a grocery store. If it's in like a plastic packaging, you're probably fine. If it's in a cardboard, get worried because there might be some alcohol dipped. Like if it looks like fancy in a fancy packaging, there's probably alcohol in it. If you got it from the dollar store, you're probably fine. Now, if you like alcohol, you go for it. I don't drink personally, but if that's your thing, you go for it. Now, from what I've heard, again, I do not drink, but I've heard people aren't really drinking for the flavor for the most part. Some people are, but a lot of people, there's other motives, okay? So to eat it, I don't think there's enough alcohol to the point where you would feel it for the most part. So it's like, if we all just hate the flavor, like why are we taking something, especially something as delicious as a fruitcake, and dunking it in battery acid? Like, huh? Like, whose idea was that? I believe it was like it was not a conservation effort. What is it called? Like, it was a way to preserve it, maybe? I don't know. It was self-preservation for the fruitcake. I'm actually going to Google it. You know what? We have time. I'm not doing anything else. Clearly. Why do people put... And I want to make my own fruitcake. And I think you have to start now because... Well, I think if you were going to do the alcohol version, you would have to start now. Because I think you make like the fruitcake part, the delicious part, and then you like poke holes in it, pour alcohol over top of it, and then like wrap it up and then let it sit, and then like every couple weeks like add, or once a week add more alcohol to it. Again, if we just stopped with the alcohol part, I really think life could be better. May I suggest something? On my Christmas breakfast, I always have a huge mug of coffee, usually black coffee. Now, you could argue like I'm doing the thing that I despise, dunking a delicious fruitcake in battery acid, because I'm drinking Folgers. Delicious, by the way. I will defend Mr. Folger, Mr. and Mrs. Folger, the Folger family to the end. But it's essentially battery acid. So I am, in fact, guilty of what I am against. But isn't that always kind of how it works? Okay. I typed in, why do people put fruitcake? And then I think I got distracted and didn't finish the sentence. So I'm going to fix that and say, put alcohol in fruitcake. And I genuinely have not come into contact with someone else who hasn't said the words ew when I mentioned that I like fruitcake. Okay. This is from BBC Good Food. See, I think it is like a British thing. And the question, or the article is called How to Feed a Christmas Cake. I think that's another term for it. There are a lot of benefits to feeding a fruitcake. It will help keep your cake moist. Well, yeah, dumping liquid on it, just put water. As well as give it extra flavor. Yeah, but if the flavor is bad, why would you want extra? And if you're a little heavy-handed, it would also develop the characteristic boozy kick. I don't want a boozy kick. I don't want it. No, kick the other direction. Okay, I'm going to Google, does anyone else like fruitcake? I mean, they've been making it for centuries. It's still very easily found in like, not even like a specialty grocery store, in like the store. Like when, hey, I got to go to the store. Do you need anything? Like they have it there. Okay, so this is Reddit /r/cooking. This is the person. I'm the only one who doesn't hate fruitcake. Oh, sorry. Am I the only one that doesn't hate fruitcake? ? How did it cultivate such a bad reputation? Such a good question. Oh, okay. See, this person whose literal username is moist fruitcake said soaking your fruit in strong... Oh, sorry, never mind. I thought this said soaking your fruitcake in strong black tea will add a lovely moistness to the cake. I thought we were soaking the fruitcake in tea as opposed to alcohol, in which case, delicious. Okay, people suggesting recipes. No one's answering the question. All I'm saying is, and you don't put the pressure, don't feel like you have to copy me and do your Christmas breakfast fruitcake in Nanaimo bar, although it is delicious. But I really do recommend, like, just giving it another try. Like, just try, okay? Just try the non-alcoholic version with the frosting, with the icing, unless you hate marzipan. That's a whole other thing. Isn't it wild how, like, almond paste does not taste like almonds, but it's literally almonds that have been blended? That was always the craziest thing to me. Like an almond tart, or an almond croissant, which I love. And I am thinking about adding to the breakfast rotation for one of the 12 meals of Christmas. I love that it does not taste like almond to me. Like, it does not taste like I'm eating a pack of almonds. Now, usually when I am eating a pack of almonds, it's like a seasoned variant. So maybe that's why. But I don't know. That's always confused me, like how blending something and maybe adding some sugar changes the flavor profile to such a drastic degree. I don't know. And then just quickly to recap my full Christmas meal, which obviously in the December, I think Christmas is a Wednesday. Oh, I might have to be recording a Nobody Asked This podcast on Christmas. That's funny. On Christmas, on the December 26th Boxing Day release episode, which I'm such a loser enough that I won't skip. Like you will have an episode on Christmas. It'll be like Christmas evening. Everyone's like eating, and I'm going to be, in my studio, in the dark, whispering, "Hi guys, welcome to the Christmas episode," because that's how pathetically dedicated I am. When no one asked for this. Anyway, the second half of my Christmas breakfast is a Nanaimo bar. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, a Nanaimo bar is delicious. It's a bar that is layered. So it's the first layer. I don't know how common they are. Like, it's named after like a very small city. I don't even know if like everywhere in Canada has Nanaimo bars. I'm going to Google that. And Nanaimo bars aren't inherently Christmas, but they also are. Like, it doesn't have to be Christmas to eat them. You can find them in the store at any time. But, like, you see more of them at Christmas. How popular... But I've never seen them in, like, an American grocery store. And trust me, I've traveled the aisles of an American grocery store. How popular are Nanaimo bars? Let's see. They need to get either like a rebrand or something, or get a new like PR team. They're so good. Again, Reddit r/no stupid questions. There are stupid questions. There really are. Yeah, it's apparently just a Canadian thing, but I think it might be most parts of Canada. Regardless, it is a bar where the crust part, like the bottom layer, is like chocolate, nuts, and I want to say it's like a graham cracker base. I actually don't know. Yeah, it's like nuts. Oh, you know what it is? It's like nuts, some sort of like crushed up chocolate cookie, and coconut. That's usually where the coconut is, but there's always a coconut flavor. And then there's like a layer of custard, and then like a thinner layer of like a chocolate ganache. Now, the thickness of the chocolate layer is integral. It can take an enamel bar from great to absolutely fantastic, amazing. You need to have it, like, I don't want to be eating a chocolate bar. I want to be biting, though, into a piece of chocolate that will then crack. I don't want it to, like, melt into the custard. And also, a lot of people, like, you're putting too much custard. The custard is traditionally the thickest layer, and in my opinion, that is not proportionate to where I find it on the ranking. It's like number 1 in thickness, number 3 in favorite flavor. Now, it does add a texture that is needed, because if it was just crust and chocolate, like you're eating a granola bar, which I'm not against, but that's not what we wanted. So it does add like a fluffiness that is needed. But I would really recommend it. They wouldn't be difficult to make, but like, so like if you were from another part of the world that doesn't have them, which I don't even have national fans, let alone international. I don't even have like municipal, like state fan. Like there's nothing. Inter-household fans. No, I'm not bitter. But if you wanted to make a Nanaimo bar, you could do it, but it's like annoying and probably like a little bit expensive. Anything that involves having to buy like multiple things. Like I went to the grocery store the other day because I wanted to make a meal Like I was going to cook, and I did cook, and it wasn't so bad. I can follow a recipe better than I once gave myself credit for. But like by the time I bought all the ingredients, I was like, I could DoorDash 3 meals with tip and all those like fees that they decide to add at the last minute, like for cheaper. So what did I just do this for? Like it's actually not becoming cheaper to cook at home from the one time that I tried to cook a meal. Like maybe I was just at the wrong grocery store. Yes, half my cart was full of fruitcake, but don't worry, there's alcohol, so it'll be preserved or whatever. But yeah, same thing with fruitcake. Like it's probably $10-15 to buy a fruitcake. And I did spend that, unfortunately. Like not proudly, but like I needed an injection of holiday spirit, which we'll get to my holiday spirit in a second, but it's ramping up. But like if I wanted to make what I bought, I would have to buy, assuming I had like flour, sugar, baking soda, I'd have to buy like molasses or high fructose corn syrup. I'd have to buy like 3 different nuts, a few different types of dried fruit. Like that is more than $15. Granted, I'd be able to probably make larger quantities of fruitcake, but like, do I even want that? That's something I'm going to have to ask myself, because I might want that. But speaking of my holiday spirit, pivoting out of fruitcake and Nanaimo bars, which I don't want to do, it finally arrived. It hit me. I think it was the fruitcake, even though fruitcake again is more like a December thing. Like it's October, but it's okay. I'm watching the scary movies. I've already watched 1.5. I'm going to try and watch half a movie every night, because watching a full movie every night, not that great. Isn't that kind of sad that like I have such a short attention span that me being productive is watching half a movie, and I'm like proud of myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, I finally did it. I sat down and watched a movie. Like, huh? Like that used to be bad. That used to be, oh my gosh, you're watching movies all the time. Like that, like go out and touch grass. Like now because the other option is like being on your phone and just like doom scrolling, watching a movie is like, you did such a good deed. Like you really spent your time wisely. And I think I've talked about this before, but I have an issue with like watching like really long movies or like binge watching. Like it makes me nervous to think of the time that's ticking away, but then I'll spend 5 hours staring at the wall thinking of how nervous I am that time is ticking. Did I say in the last episode that I was going to skydive? We can save that for next week, but I think I'm going to skydive in the spring. I woke up one day. Well, no, I didn't wake up one day. Well, I did, thank goodness, but like I was actually, okay, I'll just tell the story now. I was in line for a amusement park ride, and it was the one where, I don't know how ubiquitous, that's the word for this episode. Ubiquitous fruitcake. Sorry, I said the word for this episode. I meant the title. I was in line for a ride that you're like, you sit on like a bench seat and then have it's not a harness, but it's that like the handlebars like come over you and everything's like clamped down so you're good. And then it like shoots you up, I don't know, 100 feet. I don't know how tall that is, but like pretty high. And then you come back down and then you go back up and then you stop up for a second and then it shoots you back down. I've been going to this amusement park since I was like 3, 4, 5, like very young. It's always looked huge to me. I've done it a couple times in the past, but it was always like nerve-wracking. I would like have a stomachache the day before thinking like, oh, am I going to ride that ride? And then I went this year for the first time in probably 5 or 6 years. And I was like, that doesn't look that tall. Like, did they shorten it? Like, and like, yeah, sure. I didn't even grow from the last time. The last time I went was in high school. And I showed up now and I was like, this looks short. Like this looks like a baby ride. So I went on it. I was not nervous at all. And then I thought, well, if I'm not nervous for that, and I hadn't been on a plane in like 5 or 6 years until this year. And I've been on a few planes and I'm not nervous at those like I used to be. So I was like, maybe I'm just fearless now. Hence, I'm gonna skydive. And because it's easier to commit and say yes and say you're gonna do things, 6 months in advance, I've said I'm gonna skydive for my birthday. Now, no one has really called me out on the fact that that makes no sense. If you want to skydive, just go skydiving. Why do you have to wait for an event? It just sounded right to me. Also, I'm turning 25, so skydive 25 skydive. I have to figure out the exact hashtag. I haven't invited anyone to do this with me, but I've told everybody, and it's an open invite to come. Also, if someone wanted to do it with me, that's totally fine. Obviously, I will be going with an instructor. I'm not going to just jump out of the sky, on my first round. But no one's yeah, I'm going to do it for my birthday, but it's not my party because A, I haven't had a party since I was literally 8. But B, I would never make, I'm not that person. I'm not even a birthday person. So now I've really put myself in a predicament because either A, I'm not going to skydive, and then everyone that I've told I am going to skydive is going to be where's the skydiving? And B, I've just made everyone aware of my birthday, which I usually spend 364 days a year. A, vying for attention, but B, making sure no one knows my birthday so that I don't get attention on the day in which it is most appropriate to receive attention. Does that make any sense? A, in my explaining of it, and B, why do I keep doing A's and B's this episode? Is this the alphabet? I am Miss Rachel. A, B, C. Does everyone know Miss Rachel? She is a YouTube, I would use the term sensation, who is so rich. Anytime someone is very popular on YouTube, I just go straight to you are rich, because I feel if you're a famous semi-famous person, you're probably spending a lot of money to live up the lifestyle, you have to have the fancy house. If you are mid-level famous, you probably, whether or not you need it, live in a house that's more than you can afford, because in your head you're famous. You probably have to pay for security and stuff like that. Whereas the people doing YouTube, they're doing it out of their home basement in Connecticut, where it's you don't need security for that. It probably doesn't cost much to produce. I'm sure it's a lot of work. As someone who does a half an hour a week podcast, it's entrepreneurial, really, but you don't have to pay the cover, when you're on YouTube versus used to be, the third most famous person on a TV show that ran for 2 seasons. But you're still having to pay for a publicist, even though your return on investment is probably not that much. I have literally no idea what I'm talking about. I don't know how I went from fruitcake to Nanaimo bars to publicist. What does a publicist have anything to do with anything? Yikes, AB. I think we're going to cut it off there. Oh, did I talk about... I talked about how I'm just finally getting the Halloween spirit. I also am wanting to see a couple movies that are in theaters, and I think I'm just going to go alone. And I'm not asking if that's weird, because A, I know it is, and B, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to the dollar store beforehand, because I'm not a freak, and buy the snacks there, because the movie theater popcorn, the popcorn, you don't really have a choice, because what are you going to bring in your own popcorn? Unless you're bringing a bag of Smart Pop, which, while delicious, is not comparable to whatever they're putting in that movie theater popcorn. You kind of have to buy the popcorn in the theater, unless you have a huge purse, which I don't tend to have, just daily. It just depends on what I'm wearing. But I think you kind of got to splurge on the popcorn, but no one needs to be spending $10 for a bag of M&Ms at the movies. Also, isn't popcorn the cheapest thing to make? The kernels, if I BYOC bring my own kernels, to the Cineplex, can they just like pop them for me and then I'll just like pay the labor? Like there's no reason that a bag of popcorn needs to cost literally $20. Like that costs you 10 cents to make. So anyway, it just makes me upset. And then like fountain soda. Do you know how cheap that is? Like literally you probably paid 2 cents for the syrup that half the time is not even enough. Like it's always like watery. Ugh. The whole system is just, obviously there's like bigger fish to fry. Like we want to talk about like society, but starting small, nuts. I'm going to go. I'm going to go watch, I almost said a Christmas movie. I'm going to go watch a Halloween movie. I had a whole drama with my Netflix account that I'll get into next week, but we're all fine. I might have been locked out for a minute. But thankfully, I caught the Halloween spirit in time enough for me to realize it. Well, step 1 was enough for me to want to watch a movie. 2, enough for me to realize that my Netflix account was messed up. And then 3, enough. It was all happened soon enough for me to fix the issue before the hackers got my credit card information. And they're probably listening to this today. So I actually do have a listener. And I'm unfortunately here to tell you, listener, I've changed the Netflix password on you. So don't, like, if you wanted it, I'm so loosey-goosey with my passwords. Like, I'm not the person you have to hack. I'm just not. Like, just ask. I'll probably give it to you. You know, like, I'll just, if you need something from me, don't hack, just ask. Okay? And I will probably, especially if you, like, are even, like, 2% pushy, like, I will fold. I will crumble. Crumble cookies. Don't waste your hacking skills on me. Although it is kind of impressive. I think we need to take some of these hackers and, like if they could use their powers for good, I think we could solve some things. Starting with those popcorn prices. Anyway, I'm going to go. I hope you all have a great week. I hope you all watch a bunch of Halloween movies, scary or otherwise, in the movie theater by yourself, with friends, or just at home. Check your Netflix accounts, okay? Make sure we're on the up and up, because I thought mine was. I would have told you mine was, and I checked and it wasn't. Spooky stuff. That's the real trick or treat. If you like what you heard, which how could you not, you can go to podcastnobodyaskedforthis.podbean.com. On there, you can listen to all of the episodes. You can get links to our, what is that called? Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, a couple other places. Listen, I haven't updated the Instagram since February, I think. I don't have a good excuse, except no one was really, like, I think it had like 5 followers, which I love all 5 of those followers, know them personally, but like something had to give. But maybe we'll revive it. And then we have we have a TikTok account with like maybe 2 or 3 TikToks, maybe 5 max, that I think were funny when I made them 2 years ago. Maybe check those out. But thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. And I will talk to you next week, where it'll be the penultimate episode. No, next week is the last episode. Not like kind of the last episode before Halloween, because like the episode after that will come out on Halloween, but like I'll have recorded it on the 30th probably, because I'm last minute. So we'll see. Anyway, I'm going to go. Take care. Catch you later. Ooh. That was me being spooky. Oh, I also was going to go to a pumpkin patch by myself, but I would have to do different days, because I can't do like all of that alone on one day. I will keep you posted. Goodbye.